afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacaster. I'm your host, Imperial Dane, Master Propaganda, Hero Strike, Defender of the Fatherland. Off here today, starting in 1 vs 1 on Longer Sky. Between the north, we got Dots finding out for the Wehrmacht, Germany, Deutschland. Rolling out here with the 2nd Panzer Division west in the south, we got Findeed, Finland's finest, fighting here for America, freedom and democracy. Rolling out with the 1st Armored Division using mechanized infantry and Rifle Company versus Mobile Defense, Festung Armor and Jaeger Infantry, with double infantry grenade versus mortar machine gun and Panzerfaust bulletins. We got a double rifle start here for Findeed, allowing to set out to the field more aggressively, fight the enemy obviously a lot more effectively, versus the standard MD42 gun start here from Dots. We'll be able to push ground and hold ground decent here within the early moments of the game, and in theory can also be used to sort of play aggressively if you sort of elite the machine gun with something else. Pretty risky, but done correctly can throw your opponent off. 74 to him for the Coh2 point there, Gunlead's following up. Note he's taking sort of this more particular path towards the fuel point. Some players will grab here, but other players will basically set up more of a closer front line here, securing these 2 points. Then move towards the fuel point here, usually securing the house in the process. Findeed just moving westwards there. We get a barbed wire here on the Rauchenschlepper Ost here, which is by what this type of tractor was known as a German one, made for the Eastern Front. Even more fun fact is, they actually made a tank destroyer based on this version, which sort of had a platform mounted on the back where there would be a Pack 40. Fun note there. Going to push back the rifleman there, with a single disc one there for Dots and the German army. MD42 carrying the centre here, anticipating Findeed trying to push straight for the fuel point that way. Tends to be in fact a very common play. Of course, the issue is that MD42 can't quite see fully, so there's a chance he could actually sneak up for him and get past. So we'll have to see how it works out. They got more, they're going to like moving up to cover the centre better, support the machine gun. Pioneer's grabbing the fuel point there. Findeed's already grabbed his fuel point. And Rifle just waiting. They could try and push for here. They might be worth there's something waiting about here. Who knows? Or they just. Oh, the machine gun position just as does so. Findeed slips past. Oh, he moves more or less into the outer 5 than before 2 almost, but actually gets out of it. And there you go. Pretty close here. Rifle under 5 from the Grenadiers as well. Then from that Rifleman MD42 repositioning, and then the other Rifle Squad moves in here, catching the MD42 off guard as he tried to do with the Rifle Squad up there. As soon as he gets suppressed, we can rush in the Grenadiers and shift the machine gun again. More Rifle attack from the south, the outmaneuvering the Grenadiers in the south. Findeed, they're pushing in. And that's going to force Dot here to reposition. Might in fact be forced to retreat. He's trying to set up the MD42 right on the spot there. Pretty risky, and there go the Grenadiers retreating. But the MD42 will have to retreat as well. It cannot afford to hang about now. There's a Rifle Squad right next to it. Grenadiers here got the Rifle Racers moving in here. Pretty bad start here for Dots as Findeed sets in with a big swing there versus Dots. More Grenadiers on the way for him. Try and hold off Findeed. He might want to consider another MD42 here. Grenadiers doing what they can to get the reactions. We've got the Grenadiers being pushed out. Not even fully reinforced. Dots here cannot wait versus Findeed to do so. Findeed notably here going for a 2nd Reserve Squad to probably help him grab more territory. Of course also sets up for more stuff for like field fortifications and repairing his vehicles. Plus on top he actually wants to go for say Rifle Company. He can easily switch over to that and a lot of flamethrowers. So double reagency does give Findeed some options. Plus, in theory, if he were to go for Infinite Company, he could also just equip him with a bunch of light machine guns if he wanted to. But there you go. Defends the Coh2 point successfully at a rather sharp cost there. Meanwhile, Findeed's grabbing a lot of things. See, sort of he's trying to harass with the promise without grabbing the victory point as well. This is not going to matter particularly much as the victory point is also another cut-off point. In most cases. Dots here could either go for an MD42, mortar, sniper, he could try and take up there. Either way, he should probably make a decision soon enough, because the longer he did this on that objective, he's going to be in a sticky situation there versus his opponent. Pioneers falling back here, MD42 aggressively. So we can see here Dots is trying to swing the game around against Findeed here, going for a mortar as well. Possibly to support his aggressive pull, but also in case Findeed does go for a mortar himself. Findeed here pushing for the lieutenant, and aggressive play, further aggressive play that is versus his opponent. And there you go, Findeed bypassing all of Dots' forces, going straight for the fuel point. Very good move there, very good move. That's going to force Dots have to divert forces from there rather to the front line, or away from the front line, which is going to mean either way here that Findeed's going to face less pressure, which is very good here for Findeed, as right now, of course, he's hitting in pretty hard there. There you go, fuel point has been rendered neutral. Rifleman versus Grenadiers, Riflemen do lose out. Pinned down here, suppressed. Pioneers falling back. Indeed is not letting this go without quite the fight. And there you go, Rifleman there getting past here, flanking up behind, gun is not able to hold. Again, had he been able to put the Grenadier squad here, probably would be doing much better. But because the rear echelons just bypassing everything, going straight for the fuel point, he was essentially able to weaken Dot's stranglehold here on the front here. So this can certainly show the power of Harassment, not just in denying the resources fuel, but again, it forces a response. In this case, the rear echelons actually end up beating the Grenadiers, wiping them entirely. I mean, these Grenadiers were almost at full health, and the rear echelons were not. So yeah, that was pretty good there for Findeed. That was pretty damn good, and overall a huge win here in the early game. I mean, Dots really went almost all in there and was punished here by Findeed quite aggressively. And now he's taking the Coh2 as well there. So right now Dots is going to have to make some aggressive adjustments to sort of turn this around. He's going to need some light vehicles, I think, to be able to pressure some of Findeed's infantry. Panzer Grenadiers will also be a good choice. And then going on at this point, I think Jaeger infantry and some G43s to sort of buff up his Grenadiers as well there would be quite helpful versus Findeed, who is just now rushing ahead, securing as much as possible. I mean, it's really not a bad idea what Dots tried to do, but the execution was a bit weak, and again, it was really much hard counter there by Findeed. I mean, he could have just ignored it, tried to push ahead, but nonetheless, he just sort of diverted his forces there, basically meaning he wasn't concentrating properly in either spot, and that rather undercut him. There we go, got Jaeger infantry, and he calls in the Jaeger command squad to boost his troops here with the, well, Jaeger command squad. 5-man, G43s, and a lot of ability should help out here versus Findeed for a brief while at the very least. But right now, Findeed's got both fuel points, and that is a very fat lead there to Findeed. Comparatively, again, Dots is just falling behind here. Ram there's the Jaeger command squad, immediately loss of Joe there. Air fire there being inflicted. Lieutenant being pushed out. Rifleman doing a lot of damage to the Jaeger command squad. Could have perhaps handled the Jaeger command squad better, but still highlights just the power of the rifle squad in versus a 5-man Grenadier squad with G43s on it. The Rifleman is still very, very strong. Lieutenant there being flanked by the Jaeger command squad, closing in on Veterans 1 already, which is not going to help in direct combat ability there, since it only gives access to flares. At this point, he should definitely get out some light vehicles or Panzer Grenadiers, but also I think another MD-42 would do him a lot of good. Meanwhile, Findeed has gone for his doctrine. It is infantry, and he's immediately equipping his rear echelons with Browning light machine guns, bringing up their potential for ruining Dot's day quite aggressively. I'm not entirely sure why he's using the Grenadiers instead of the Pioneers to secure the fuel point, since you'd rather want the Grenadiers at the front line. There you go again. Quick hit for the Coh2 point for DT, displaying just the sheer aggression of the Americans, swiftly outmaneuvering Dots. So how will Dots react to this new mess here that Findeed is causing? He needs to get them all to the close to the front line to support there. But again, this is kind of why you should let the Pioneers there, not the Grenadiers, so that way could easily respond much more efficiently to what's going on. Findeed here can soon act begin going straight for the Major and begin pushing out tanks soon enough, if he wants to. And there you go, he's going for the Major here at the 8-minute mark, meaning you know, roughly around the 9-minute mark he could in theory begin pushing for tanks. Of course, going to have some more time to get up fuel for it, but still he's going to be at a severe advantage over Dots in that regard. Yeah, command squad already on health is going to struggle a bit here to deal with Findeed's forces in a much better condition. Also much better equipped here with Browning light machine guns and BARs, also known as the Browning automatic rifle. Here the MD-4 holding down the rear echelons, going to need to push back. 2-2 on the way, bunker up for Findeed of Dots here. Got the Lieutenant push back. That's a small tactical victory there for Dots. Secures the fuel point for a bit. Rifleman Lieutenant moving up here on the side, going to try and bypass Dots front. Very good work here. Findeed displaying some good tactical understanding of the battlefield and how to maneuver on it. And there you go, forcing them before to retreat once more. 2-2 this heading. Should be able to deal a bit with these troops, though long term another MD-42 could prove to be quite helpful for Dots in controlling Findeed's infantry. We also got BARs upgraded, which is quite interesting to note. They normally wouldn't go for Brownings and BARs, so of course you can upgrade them with a Browning light machine gun and then add a BAR on top of that. Since the limit is basically only a 1 light machine gun, but nothing saying, oh well, you can't, just go for BAR as well, so you can still have your riflemen heavily equipped with automatic weaponry. That's a fun start now. We'll have to see if he does that. Lieutenant here has been equipped with a bazooka though. Interesting combination there by Indeed. Mortified now. Rifleman here moving up. Have they been equipped with something a bit besides? Yes, indeed. Looks like that's a Browning light machine. And yes, indeed. And the BAR. So that is a lot of firepower in the hands of one rifle squad. To the two already need repairs. Pioneers will have to retreat in the face of the rifle. Now veteran 2 already just laying down a wall of lead against the Pioneers behind heavy cover there. Pearson bringing up the eastern side. Mortar creeping a bit ahead. Mortar firing there. Troops healing and reinforcing. Panzer Grenadiers, he's focusing on the infantry. Of course, he has to keep in mind armour here from Indeed. Healing reinforcement, Jaeger command squad good to go. He's going to be hitting that fuel point any time soon. He'll probably try and get the 2-2 over there as soon as possible while sending in the Jaeger command squad first. Arrangement those forces bases centered around the Coh point. So I'm just displaying how much he has to worry about here from Indeed and how on the defensive he is. Indeed, in the meanwhile, pushing his advantage with a fuel cache, pushing for more armor faster. Clever and fiendish. Yeah, command squad there's the echelons, quickly kills Carl there, cuts him down in his prime. And the rest of them quickly forced back there. Another kill there for the command squad, down to just 2 men. Panzer Grenadier advancing here for Dots and the 2nd Panzer Division. And there we go, Rierson push back. But for this, he should have a bit more infantry firepower rule thanks to the Panzer Grenadiers. He should upgrade the other Grenadier squad as soon as he can. Though he might want to consider light machine gun on the other one. Panzer Grenadiers could try and flank behind the ramp and all that. Of course, they have a lot of firepower, so they have to retreat through it. This could end up poorly. But if done reasonably well, it could work out well. But Pro try to keep the A command squad. There we go, MD4 to the suppressing. Grenadiers are Pioneers down from the front. There we go, Rifleman push back. Other squads suppress as well. Nice flank here by Dots, turning the table somewhat on Indeed. But here we see him now already going for Sherman at the 12 minute mark, and Dots has to go for a Pack 40, and even then he's going to be struggling versus that Sherman. In particular, since Indeed will be able to follow up with another one soon enough. We can see he's trying to push ahead, they're just trying to pressure Indeed, push him onto the defense as much as possible. He's seen the Major, that should really ring some bells as to what's coming next here from Indeed. Some very big bells. Panzer then need to retreat. Small chance of getting wiped. Roughing it off on the Reasons and wipes them. Indeed was too slow there. It's definite tactical victory there for Dots, but in the face of the impending Sherman is going to look less impressive. But he is going for the Pack 40, and he definitely needed a Pack 40. In fact, he desperately needs it because there we go. Sherman arrives from Indeed. And it's not going to be too far off from the next one either. So Dot is going to be further on the defensive in the meanwhile. The only thing he's really got going for him is basically just killing some of Indeed's squads. Got the command squad pushed back. Got the 5th car being added there to the Sherman. Pack 40 finally arrives here for Dot and the German army. In the meanwhile, should probably try and take up as fast as humanly possible, pull out some Stugs here to be able to sort of counter Indeed's armour more efficiently. And another MD42 would long term, I think, still be a solid choice as well. But there you go, occupying the house, setting up a strong blocking position next to half of Dots, just move straight for the fuel pod. Here's as all this is happening, he's striking at the car point with the German as well. Sandwiching Dots' forces and attention between these two things, forcing him to sort of have to decide which one to deal with as a priority. There you go, Sherman being pushed back. He was able to get the Pack 4 there in time. At the same time, he just keeps pushing up here at Indeed in the east. Mortified there, having an impact there on Indeed's forces. First Armoured feeling the wrath of the German army, at least somewhat. Victory points wise, though, Dots is already lagging quite behind Indeed. 2-2 moving in there. Panzer's the Jaeger command squad and Grenadiers. all armed to the teeth and all intent on shooting up some Yankees. Meanwhile, they're indeed seemingly getting ready to attack. Nope, pulls it back there. Might have been a mistake then. And there you go, right push back, taking heavy damage from all of these very, very angry Germans. Also, a big thanks to Shokan for donating to the Propagandacast and supporting the war effort. Most appreciate Shokan, or Shokan, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that one. And a big thanks to Raymond and Brandon for pledging on Patreon, supporting as well that way. Big thanks to both of you, and of course big thanks to all three in general. You all allows me to keep doing this as a rule of thumb, so many big thanks there. Certainly helps a lot there in the longer run. And of course, if you'd like to support, links in the video description. Anyways, back to the action. Teleman's going down here on the flank to cover against armoured flanks from Findeed. Good work. Is the take-up happening? No. He's bringing up another Pack 40, which does make sense. Should help a bit more with the Shermans. But he is slowly turning this around, though, despite an incredibly rough start and an incredibly aggressive and successful start from Findeed. So very good work there by Dots, stabilising. Got 50 calibers out here as well for Findeed, suppressing the Grenadiers and forcing them away. Sherman repaired. Good to attack into Kraut territory once more. Pioneers versus Riflemen. I still think another MD4 would work out great. Findeed could consider more tactic, but more mobile artillery support here versus Dots. White Frost from the likes of Rangers, a smoke screen could be quite helpful. We've got Riflemen pushing up here, Brown light machine guns, and BARs just laying down a wall of lead. Pack 4 of the rear, there we go, and gain the Sherman at max range. No smoke screen from the Shermans to cover up the assault here. 2-2 mortar there, ready to support. Find the centre Jaegers push back, and the West Pioneers continues to just be target practice. Not the best engagement with the Panzer Grenadiers. This is not really effective range. This is better for the Jaeger command squadron and Grenadiers for the light machine gun. Yet now he's upgraded both of them with G43s. I don't think at least one LMG-42 equipped squad would have been quite helpful there for Dots and Deutschland. There you go, pushing a bit ahead with the rear into those nearby shrubbery, which makes it somewhat easy for the Panzers, except they're still in light cover, so there's limits to it. On the other hand, the mortar might have a better chance of actually murdering them. He could probably consider bombarding sort of the riflemen there. The barrels is overall more efficient than just auto fire. That of course requires a bit more management. Panzer Grenadiers, they need to retreat. They are very low in health and numbers. Counter-attack here in the West Rifleman Jaegers there. By a command squad. Closing in, eventually feel that'd be pretty good if he can hit that for Dots. As for Findeed, he can soon go for another shell. In fact, he can go for it right now, but due to the manpower bleed, he's not quite there yet. Second mortar for Dots. Alter tech up. I was about to ask, where the hell is the tech up if you're going for a second mortar? But double mortars could prove to be quite effective versus Findeed. In particular, Findeed is just a bit unattentive for one moment. The double mortars certainly have a decent chance of actually wiping some of Findeed's stuff, so could prove to be a critical tool here versus Findeed. I mean, it's either that or double machine guns, but double mortars can be quite as effective as well. Generally, any mortar get two of them, you generally have a pretty good sort of thing there going on. So that's actually a generally good tip, like just get two mortars at some point in the game if you have mortars. I mean, some units just tend to perform a lot better once you get two of them. Stugs, 222s, mortars, anti-tank guns also just rapidly increase in their value once they get two of them. So I mean, those are some things there. You can call it the binary rule of Dane. Like, some units are a lot better when you have two of them. And work them together, that is, of course. Sandbags up here from Findeed in the south, but that's quickly spotted and spoiled. Dots, though, feels a bit defensive. Obviously, doesn't want to extend and risk, you know, doing what happened there in the front rather heavily back, but just seeing out here versus Findeed, I'm not entirely sure it's going to be a long-term solution, though. The double mortars should help with that somewhat, with all the possible attrition they get going and the chance of wiping stuff. So obviously, that might be what he's just banking on, just hoping to wipe some stuff with the double mortars, and then once Findeed, you know, is deeply touched all of that, you know, the losses he's suffering, and, you know, emotionally devastated, then Dots will just strike through. But he should get up that support we call pretty schnell. And we got a pre-start from Findid. Alright, Findid is aiming for the big artillery here. The 105mm howitzer here based on the Sherman chassis. There's also a British version known as the Sexton, which was based on the Canadian Ram, which was a tank that never really saw any usage. That's a fun note. There might have been some based on Shermans as well, I guess. Since the Canadian Ram was basically just a Canadian attempt at making a Sherman tank. But I guess at some point they sort of realised, wait, why are we making our own Sherman tank? We just use the Americans' ones. And that was a really good question. Why were you doing that, Canadians? But anyways, intensify here. Wipes both mortars! Ah! Catastrophic. An absolutely outstanding counter there from Indeed. German taking hits, but the Jaeger command squad is getting obliterated out in the open. Staggering casualties. Bomb grenade there to cover the tree ticket. Battleladnon. And almost got it, but sadly just not quite impactful after it got nerfed for arcane reasons, I would describe it as. Troops reinforcing healing. You go for the Panzer IV. Could also go for the Stug. We'll have to see what he ends up with, but a choice definitely needs to be made in the armor department. Pretty schnell. Peg forward there, almost getting the Sherman. If you can get that, would be huge. And slip of health. Stealing the mortar here. Artillery called in actually just to deny that and wipes the mortar crew. At least the attempted wannabe mortar crew. Obviously, they were front mounting due to a lack of German citizenship. Panzer on the way there for dots. And shoot someone wounded. That's actually a funny thing they always keep doing. Units of the garrison will automatically shoot at anyone who's wounded. I don't know why, but they will do it without hesitation. Like, they'll just be regular guys out in the open as soon as they get into the house, they just turn into these war criminals. Still haven't been able to get his hands on the mortars. We've got grenades out from Vendita's active research. Those. Oh! That was close. The 10 tank falls into the panzers of the Jaeger command squad, and their casualties are not astounding, actually. Rather light, considering everything. Priest is certainly turning out to be a nuisance there. 4 dots. This Panzer IV finally arrives to the front line. Yeah, I heard you had an army problem here. I'm the exterminator. Sherman sending out there once more for Indeed. And his married bunch of Yankees. And as soon as the Panzer moves forward, suddenly got the Sherman up on the right flank. Mortars still not recruited. You should never get those back in action, but you should also be more careful with them because obviously they're going to be attracting attention from Indeed's Howard Priest there. No, that should be to try and hunt it down. And I think that was a flare there from Dots. Interesting. Also a bit more harassment on the left flank would help up. Except there's a firing position coming and approach with the fuel pond there. At least make it very hard. Grenade off and... oh! Wipe the lieutenant! That's pretty good there for Dots. Pretty terrible for Indeed. Hey, did anyone see Lieutenant Dan? He's dead. Oh. Blown to bits. Oh. Rearson's marching straight into the Grenadiers. Not a pretty sight either. It looks like Indeed might be slipping up here a few things with his infantry at the very least. But there you go. Big fat infantry flank using the Matrix also recon out there. Very good combination there, makes it a lot easier for him to spot out where things are. Flanking the machine gun excellently. Sehr gut Arbeit there by Indeed. In the east here, Rifleman 50 cal machine gun holding up a lot of Dots troops. He needs to rush back. Armour here to deal with this. There we go. Ambushed by the KA commands, but then grenade off and off. Almost got a wipe there. Might be able to avenge the lieutenant that way, and he's going to get it. Yes, he wiped the Jaeger command squad. Quite a loss there for Dots, who's got plenty of man power. Just immediately hits the call in Batten. Jackson went there for Indeed in the east. Gun is trying to flank past here. Gets the Philip Cal machine gun. Should be able to even steal it, though. They need to clear out the Yankees first. And there you go. Mortar fire. At least one mortar's been crude grenade off against Dots. Looks like the other mortar got blown to bits, so he's down to just one mortar now. Which is better than no mortars, but I'm sure he had dreamed of having a second mortar as well. You know, Helmut, I once had a dream. It was a wonderful dream. It was a dream of having 2 mortars and blowing those American assholes to bits. But of course, the Americans, like to do with all dreams, just ruins them. First they ruined the American dream, and then they ruined mine dream. Assholes. Anyways, still in the 5th cover there. Fixing up the Sherman. Jackson good to go. But he needs to put more pressure on the flanks. I mean, he's overall being too defensive in his Dots. I mean, indeed he's been, you know, very aggressive. But, like, Dots, I think, is just being too cautious. He needs to, you know, prepare for a big assault there. He needs to, you know, get into that blitzkrieg spirit, you know. Bit like Christmas, except you're trying to, you know, invade a country and, you know, destroy a lot of other chaps. Though I suppose both do involve jolly fat men flying above, except one of them is horribly corrupt and Goering. Anyways, Jackson moving up on the right flank, also revealing itself to Dots if he's paying attention. Quick rifle grenade attempt, pretty risky out in the open. Oh! Follow up with the mortar round, takes out the rifle squad. In fact, Findi's just suffering staggering infantry losses. He's down to 2 rifle squads on the major. I mean, if Dots were just to push more armor and actually make a sort of extended push across the front, you'd like to destroy Finditi, at least do a lot of damage. I mean, right now the priest is open like nothing else, but because Dots is currently so defensively minded, he's not aware of the actually precarious situation of Finditi, because he could just rush that and destroy it. Also, he's just not going for any additional armor. So right now, I mean, again, Dots' defensive mindset is proving to be a problem. And a big boon for Indeed, obviously. Fixing up in the medic bunker there. It's a bit of a weird outfit time. I mean, again, this is really the time where Dots should just be putting forth, you know. Surging ahead, but there's just no surge. He's just content with remaining in static mindset. And meanwhile, Findeed, despite having suffered losses, is just re-engaging, remobilizing, preparing for the next big push here, setting up for flanking armored strikes. Like a true disciple of Patton. Actually, a true disciple of Patton would just charge your head on, I guess. But he's displaying the right aggressive spirit, which is definitely what Patton had in space compared to most other American commanders. Anyways. Central assault, they're stalling. Armoured on the east flank is stalling as well. Artillery fire is doing no additional impact. Relying on resistance with Browning light machine guns to pick up the slack. There we go. Second Panzer IV for Dots, and the second Panzer Division. But he's still feeling too defensive, too passive. Also, you should just stuff that 5th Cavalry inside the house. Better coverage of the area. Okay, something's happened on the left flank. Infantry and Panzers. Good. Also seems to be... No, not stuffing it in there. I'm liking this, just the Sherman there. Just in his territory doing nothing. And now he's shifting his forces from the west towards the east all of a sudden. Breaking it off for... I'm not entirely sure what purpose. He might have just gotten too skittish there. But again, like at least kept an infantry squad that pushed ahead or something. But he's also cancelled the Panzer IV. And instead he's now going for Tier 4. Oh, this feels like a bad idea. I mean, Findi's just got so much more armor, and the problem is the Panther's just not good enough. Tearing up when your opponent has 2 Shermans and a Jackson, the Panther is nowhere remotely good enough. Though he's doing a lot of damage to the Sherman, he'd still be able to escape here. The Panzernacker Fist there of Dots and the 2nd Panzer Division. But yeah, if he's going for a Panther, I'm not particularly confident that's going to work out too well. Since the Panther's main issue still remains is, for all the resources you have to pour into it, it still doesn't pack enough of a punch. Lost a unit there, Pioneer's almost wiped. He's setting up the heavy Panzer Corps, but still losing an infantry squad there is pretty expensive. I mean, comparatively he's wiped more Indeed stuff by now, so it's not too bad, but you know, it still feels kind of bad. But he's playing for a Panther, I'm assuming. I mean, the Sturmpanzer would be complete folly, and a Panzer would be, well, not particularly well advised either. But I can't particularly advise the Panther, but it's definitely the best of the 3 choices. Also, need to get the Grenadiers out of the artillery zone there. His medic bunker is long gone. Not even a hole in the ground. And there you can call in the Panther. But the issue is he's still going to be severely outgunned, because there's going to be 3 Shermans and a Jackson versus 1 Panzer IV and 1 Panther. So he's going to have to play that Panther extremely well, and even then that might not be enough because the Panther just doesn't have the firepower. Yeah, command's going. Does he actually have a light machine gun on them? That just looked like briefly. They're getting shot to bits out, and then we got the Shen moving out. Panther almost done there for Dots. Rifling it off. He might actually be benefited just from throwing down a smoke screen with his Jaegers and falling back here. Then he's being attacked by Rifling head on assault. Rifling attempt here does not work out particularly well for unsurprisingly obvious reasons. And there you go. Panther out for Dots and the 2nd Panzer Division. Almost working out Rifling squad there with a mortar. Seeing the Panther far away from these Findici setting up the assault on the west, so he doesn't particularly know that. Of course, a quick flare from the Jaegers could very well reveal that. I mean, he were to get a 2nd Panther somehow, he might be able to pull something off. But he definitely needs to keep the Panther coordinated with everything else. He cannot operate on his own. Not against such large armoured forces here from Findeed. I think he needs to go for more tanks or tank destroyers if he wants to. Air reconnaissance, very good work. I mean, basically what Findeed is just sussing out Dot's position, so he knows the optimal position to attack and then strike with full force there. That is definitely the right approach there by Findeed. In this case also has to get a pot shot there, and the Panzer IV doesn't quite work out. That was a nice attempt. And now he could lay down the smoke from Fort charging in here with the Shermans. He's got plenty of smoke to lay down a few. And now Dots is attacking, but no, he's sending a bit of infantry. Not the Panther boy to support. I mean, he's finally getting aggressive, but even then, he just feels a bit weird he's not supporting with the Panther. Also, no smoke screens to maybe cover up some of the worst bits. And there you go. If he did take advantage of this, he's just then hit the flanks. I mean, there's clearly some exposed points here which he just hit with the Shermans. Very good work there. We got air support called in, and there's still close air support to deal with the armour. Good counter here. Panther finally on the move again. I find it sort of funny, a lot of players end up going for Panthers, tend to play them incredibly passively, which begs the question, why did they get the Panther in the first place? Obviously they don't want to toss it away, but you know, they still kind of want to have a chance of shooting at the enemy. There you go. Pursuing the Shermans and whatnot. There you go. Might be able to get the Jackson. Need to be careful though. Trying to get the Sherman with the Panther, and Panther 4 down. Should have focused on the Jackson, pull back the Panther 4. So he just threw a Panther 4, and there goes Sherman flanking in. Pack's trying to deal with it, getting some hits in there. Needs to be careful with the Panther, which again just doesn't have enough firepower for him when it hits. Sherman meanwhile just causing havoc here with grenades against the Pack 4. To this anti-aircraft support, they almost got the Sherman. Panther pulling back here. Indeed, just completely outmaneuvering and decimating Dots here, using his tanks and some infantry. And overall, just a tank from numerous angles, not just a horde assault, but just finding where it's most efficient to hit, and then he hits hard. Very well played there. Dots needs to immediately get his Panther repaired up, needs to support it also quickly with some armor or Stug or something else. And meanwhile, Findeed's just bringing up more Shermans. He couldn't if he was trying to repair, but yeah. Now, what are you doing with the Panther? Get repaired. Don't send it further ahead there with exposed flanks and whatnot. He's in fact recruiting the Pack 4 to make it even harder for him to repair his Panther. Ah, come on, Dots. I mean, he really seems to underestimate Findeed's knack for just flanking. There goes Sherman, easily penetrates. Jackson bounces off in a sheer amount of luck there for the Panther. But it's pretty bad here. Jackson misses again. Pack 4 trying to catch up again. Supporting infantry, but able to Panther fast. I mean, to stop them, make them easy targets. But again, the infantry was nowhere to be seen. He pushed ahead, but he shouldn't have. I mean, he's been spending so much time being passive. When he finally can unleash some aggressive muscles, he just does it without thinking too much at all. Allowing Findeed to just deliver a series of rather clever counterstrokes and just completely crush that. So, for a brief amount of time there, Dots might have an advantage. He wasn't able to use it very efficiently, and Findeed just hammered him into oblivion. Right now, Findeed is very much back in control, and Dots has barely got anything left. I mean, he can go for some Stugs, but even this is going to struggle to get more than one Stug out, and he's going to need more than one Stug to have a chance here. But he's going for it nonetheless. But overall, I feel like Tier 4 was a mistake. I mean, again, it just lacks sort of sufficient weight to it to just be really useful, and the Panther's still just not good enough. And particularly if behind, it just does not have the firepower. Though again, even then, it probably could have done more than what it actually did for Dots, because Dots was just playing it passively as hell, and when he then used it, he used it rather poorly. He used it aggressively, but only to sort of max range, but he can sort of use its armor and penetration to a decent effect. But he was just holding it back, and then he moved it, and then just, I mean, he just fell apart there for Dots. But even then, ultimately, had he even played it like an expert, the problem is, it still will not be able to carry through there, but it probably would have done more than he actually managed to do with it. And if he then pulled up a second Panther, maybe there had been some sort of sliver of hope there. But I think it would just be better just going for a lot of Stugs and Panther 4s instead of going for the Panther. Like 2 Stugs with him, a much bigger effect versus Findeed. Sherman flanking there, using the smoke, very good work there, very good work. Findeed just very intelligently using the abilities, just flanking them. So few American players tend to flank, but Findeed here is clearly onto flanking is actually good, especially when you're using your tanks and some smoke idea. Completely obliterating Dots and just has no resistance there. Go totally wiping out the few remaining units here inside his base. And there you go, GG, game over. Complete crushing defeat there for Dots. Findeed just overall in many cases holding the upper hand. There were a few times it was close to the promise. At those points, Dots either pushed too far or then he did nothing. Like, he was either too aggressive, recklessly aggressive, or he was too passive. Like, he just, there wasn't any middle ground for Dots, it felt like. Just when he could have pushed ahead, he didn't push ahead. When he shouldn't push ahead, he pushed ahead. It was like he somehow had some of the worst timings imaginable versus Findeed, whereas Findeed just used his resources much more intelligently. Again, he used reconnaissance, of course. He has a lot more easy access to good reconnaissance compared to Dots, so that obviously makes things easier. But even then, I mean, he just knew where to hit. He didn't strike at where Dots was strongest. He looked for his weakest, where he could just sort of roll in several tanks, get behind, and then hit some weak units, do a lot of damage, and necessarily pull back if, you know, things get sour. I mean, overall, Findeed here just displaying strong tactical usage of the Americans, and certainly showing why they're strong. Again, if you know how to use their bloody abilities, which is the one thing I keep repeating. Darts there could also not have better, though again he was struggling particularly in the early game. That was a very rough early game that was able to stabilise. The problem was again, Darts just played too passively in many cases, and he just didn't quite pull through enough. And again, Heavy Panzer Corps, still no good. Like, they really need to hold the Heavy Panzer Corps on overall tier 4 for the Wehrmacht, I think, before it becomes seriously worth it. I mean, I've yet to see any single replay match or anything where, like, a Panther proved to be a decisive element. So, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this match. Hope you learned something from it. If you did want to subscribe to the friends, just share it with everyone. If not, send a new player and provide some feedback in the comments section. If this is Imperial Dancing, cheers. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow for another shining episode. Bye.